Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up all the possibilities and opportunities that spirituality can bring to you in your everyday life, whilst removing some of the woo-woo that we see these days on social media. Welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Matilda. I am a professional psychic medium and spiritual advisor here in Australia. I've been practicing for well over 20 years, although I have been a medium or the ability to see spirit since I was very, very young. What I love to do in this podcast is to introduce different facets of spirituality and make it more accessible to people and more understanding. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about intuition and how you can learn to access your own intuition and use it in your everyday life. You don't have to be a spiritual practitioner to use your intuition. That's something that I am really strong on informing people about, because intuition everyone has. You just need to learn how to access it in a way that you can then understand it. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about evidential mediumship and how important it is for your practitioner to give you evidence of their connection before they give you any other information. It's been a bit of a crazy week this week. The full moon and the energy around the full moon has really affected me. I don't get anxiety very often, and my anxiety has been at an all-time high. Usually when there is a full moon, it sort of hits me a little bit, and I've heard from a lot of my followers and over on my Patreon page there have been a lot of people talking about their own feelings of anxiety and how the full moon has affected them, or they didn't really know that the full moon was affecting them. It is a known phenomenon that full moons affect people's moods. Just speak to any emergency services worker and they will tell you that they all dread the shift that they do during the full moon. It has been a bit crazy, and we are going to see over the next couple of weeks a lot of explosive energy happening. A lot of natural disasters happening in different parts of the world. Remember that just because I may make a prediction of a big event or something in an area doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to affect you personally. I want to just address something, because when I do make predictions on social media, and a lot of people ask for them, they like them, it's my way to prove my connection with my guides. And if you follow me on social media, you will see that a lot of my predictions happen. A good 90+% will come to fruition. And often in the comments section, it'll be, well, I'm going to that area. What do I do? I'm going to that area. Is it going to be safe? I want to go on holiday next month in somewhere, and is it going to be safe? I can't give any guarantees in comment sections on social media, but I will always say, be aware of your surroundings. It is really important that you are always aware of your surroundings if you're in capital cities. We are living in difficult times. We are living in a time of, there is wars going on in different areas of the world. There are retaliations going on. Just be aware of where you are. Don't stop living your life, but just be aware of where you are and your surroundings. You can't stop living your life, but the same goes for things like earthquakes. I can't give a specific location of an earthquake. I am not a geologists can't even do it. And the best thing for you to do is, if you live in an earthquake area, make yourself safe. Have a go bag, be ready, have things prepared, because things will happen through your life. My job is to arm you and help you manage and navigate situations, not to give you all the answers. I hope that helps a little bit and gives you a little bit of an understanding of why I don't answer those specific and personal questions. I can't, because I can't connect with you through a comment, and I can't give you those reassurances. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, you're going to be safe. But you have to make that decision for yourself. And if you're going somewhere that I may have flagged, such as the DNC this week, if you're going to Chicago this week, there are going to be, I'm not going to say riots, but there's going to be aggression surrounding the DNC because there's so many people wanting to gather and push their agenda. I don't disagree with the agenda. Sometimes I disagree in the way it's put across, but there are people out there and it is going to get a bit push and shovey. So just be careful and know that that just because I've mentioned it doesn't mean to say that the police, etc., aren't really aware of things going down. I believe I was flagged in something that said that the FBI had already foiled a terrorist attack aimed at Kamala Harris. So that's a good thing. That, they're obviously aware of it. So, but just be careful. Just look after yourself. But yeah, don't rely on a medium to give you the ins and outs of something, because we don't know everything and we certainly don't know your personal circumstances. That being said, if you are in a capital city over the next couple of weeks, be aware of your surroundings. Just be careful of yourself. And that is across the globe, because a lot of things are kicking off. And I want you to all be aware that things could be happening in different areas of the globe. Let's talk about intuition. Intuition is an amazing thing that we all have. You don't have to be a psychic to be able to use your intuition. You just have to be really open to knowing that it's there. Again, I feel that Hollywood and different films and the feeling that anyone that has intuition is special has stopped people realizing that they use their intuition every single day. You are no different to that. Just because psychics are able to give predictions or things like that doesn't mean to say that you can't use your intuition. It is powerful. And if you learn to use it, you are going to be ahead of the game in many things. A lot of it is about trust and learning to trust your gut, so to speak. If you've ever been in a situation and you've had this strong instinct or this gut feeling about what you should or shouldn't do, then you know exactly what I am talking about. It's hard to technically define intuition, but you can think of it as an innate sort of knowing or understanding of what's true. It looks different for different people, but when you feel it, you generally know. Think about when you've walked into a room and you've had an interaction with somebody and you have that gut feeling, oh, I don't want to hang out with this person, or this person makes me feel uncomfortable. That's your intuition. If you're dating somebody, that gut feeling, that turning of the stomach, it's not butterflies. It's a run in the opposite direction half the time. You do not need to keep pushing to see if it's intuition or butterflies. Sometimes you just know, but you're not listening to your intuition. The big mistake that people make is that they think that intuition comes from the conscious mind and think it's an analytical skill or something that they can learn through research or throwing yourself hard at a goal. In stark contrast, intuition is typically more noticeable or resonant when you are still, take time to reflect, or engage in more positive activities. activities. Highly intuitive people generally feel they can pick up on their gut responses easily and are comfortable listening to them. That's the thing. It's about learning to be comfortable listening to your ability. Again, we come down to trust in yourself and really knowing yourself and what makes you tick. Perhaps you have a friend who's quickly able to discern what the next right thing for her to do is, whereas others may waffle back and forth between their available choices. Or maybe you know someone that can tune into different energies in a room and understand how other people are feeling, seemingly without having to even try. Some intuition examples or intuitive experiences, they can include things like a strange knowing that something is going to happen. That's one of the first signs that you are developing your intuition in a really good way. Just knowing when someone is about to call you, when someone is about to turn up on your doorstep, or knowing that, I don't know, you're going to bump into somebody in the middle of a city and you've just thought about them. That's your intuition. There's an unexpected feeling that won't go away and is later explained by something that occurs. Again, it can display as anxiety, but you just sort of know that something is about to happen, or news is about to come on, or again, you're going to get information about somebody you've just thought about. Feeling very strong emotions towards someone or something, and later understanding that these feelings are correct and why. This goes back to the butterflies. Sometimes a connection with someone isn't butterflies. It is your intuition giving you the heads up that they are not who they say they are. You might get flashes or glimpses of things, people or situations that seem to come out of nowhere. Now, that's all great, and it explains how you are going to get that intuition. But let's talk about how you can learn to develop these things. How to activate your inherent intuition. Intuitive people don't have anything you don't. That's the first thing to understand. Everybody has the ability to be intuitive. Actively developing your intuition is something that everyone can do. Meditation is one of the best things to start really listening to yourself and sitting in that silence. And it can really help you tune in. Or sitting for 5 minutes with no distractions. Or you can do a guided meditation. That really helps. I always say that meditation is different for everyone. I find active meditation one of the best things that I ever learned to do. And I get much more of my information during a walk, during a run. And that helps me, especially when I'm channeling. I will even walk around my house when I'm doing readings. A lot of people don't understand that that's sometimes something that really helps me bring in the information, but that's always what I've done. And sometimes if we follow the rules of other people, we're not going to succeed in our own way. Remember the old saying, you can't teach a fish to climb a tree. And that just goes to show that we all learn and do things in different ways. Not everyone can listen or sit in silence. We've all got a different way of receiving the information from our gut. Take a chance, okay? This is the big thing. This is where we learn to trust. Take a chance on following your gut instincts. If you notice a strong instinct to do something or move away from it, try following that advice and see what develops as a result. Seeing positive outcomes after following your intuition can help reinforce that you know best. And it gives you confidence to do it again and again. If you want something different, do something different. It's all about learning to trust yourselves and learning to find the answers yourself. I am all about making people self-sufficient. And start with something low stakes, like which route to take on a drive to take the pressure off. I have ignored my gut at times. I have ignored my guides at times. And the results have not been pretty. Last year, I was leaving a hotel. I'd been in Melbourne for readings, and I picked up my car from the valet, and I decided that I was going to go to Costco. And I had this flash of something to do with my tyres, or Costco sold tyres, something like that. Anyway, on my way, I was in a bit of a rush. I don't like driving in the city. It always panics me a little bit. And the sat-nav never works because of the high buildings. And I am pulling up to turn right at a major intersection where there's trams, there's people, it's rush hour, it's not pretty. And I clipped the side of my car, or the tyre, on a tram stop just as I was turning, and I got a flat tyre. That was my intuition, that I probably should have waited until rush hour had finished before leaving. It was my own silly fault. I should have listened to my gut. But I didn't, and it ended up that I had to drive on a flat tyre through a very crowded city into Costco in Melbourne. If you know Melbourne, you will know that Costco is one of the Costco's is bang in the city. And I drove straight into the tyre place and had to get my tyre replaced. And that could have been avoided if I'd have listened to my intuition. Another thing is, start checking in with yourself. So many of us are used to overriding the way we physically feel and just pushing through from one situation to the next. Make a practice of really acknowledging the way your body feels and what it's telling you. Scan your body throughout the day and take a note of any tension you're holding or sensations, good or bad. The goal here is to get more present so that you can get better at picking up on subtle messages your body is trying to send you. Intuition is your body giving you those messages. We don't get the words or the exact information. It's about knowing yourself. And I have done another episode of my podcast on that. It's called Know Thyself. Really getting to know how you react. Get out of your head, get into your body. That is the biggest advice I can give you on learning to use your intuition. When you continue to listen to your head, you are going to be misguided. Your intuition is your body. It is feelings, it is emotions. And if you don't know yourself and what triggers yourself, then you cannot tune in to your intuition. It's just one of those really important things. The other thing I'm going to say is that if you spend a lot of time on social media, consider taking a bit of a detox. Allow yourself to move away from your phone, your keyboard, whatever you use, and just be with yourself. Because we get emotions when we're scrolling through social media. We're going to feel things. We're going to be overwhelmed. We can overwhelm our senses by being so busy and allowing our mind to be so busy. If you can get out of your head, get off social media, even if it's just an hour a day, it's going to allow new messages and insights to float up from your subconscious. Because if you're totally overloading your senses constantly to try and defer from listening to your body, then you're never going to listen to your own intuition. Ask your intuition a question. Try being direct. Write out a question you're thinking about, then sit with it. Do any answers seem to arrive in your body? Journal about anything that comes up for you that could potentially answer or piece together some guidance. And if nothing comes up, don't be discouraged. Sometimes just focusing on a question at all is enough to bring an answer to you later on. Don't set a time limit. Just allow it to happen. A lot of people try and control situations and control what they're feeling through anxiety. If you try and, this is one of those things that you cannot control. You cannot control the timing of the intuition. You cannot control it by being in your head all the time. You really need to let go. Let go and let the answers flow through your body. It's so important. Start doing things like a notebook for dreams. A lot of our intuition is answered through our dreams. Write everything down when you wake up. It's mainly lucid dreams. So when you wake up and you feel as if your dream has been incredibly lucid, write it down. Because often the answers are there for you and the messages will resonate. Try not to overthink things. If you get a suggestion from your gut, try to write it down so you don't forget it, or make a point to act promptly. If you get into a place of thinking too much about it, you can easily talk yourself out of situations and start over analyzing the answer. Your intuition is always available to you. It's up to you to work on your ability to recognize and acknowledge it. Using these tips, you should be able to get a clearer sense of what intuition feels like for you. This will give you a foundation to develop it. And if you want to do more of a deep dive, there will be some courses available on my Patreon in the shop coming up. I've got September to work on those, so keep an eye out for those. But your intuition is yours. It's up to you to work out how you get the messages. No one can tell you how you're going to receive them. No one can explain it to you in a way that you will understand individually. But the main thing is to stop over analyzing, stop overthinking, and go with your gut. And that is going to help you no end. Talking about my Patreon only shop, there is currently the event that I did with Laurie Rivers. And if you don't know who Laurie Rivers is, she is the Awake Space on social media, Astro Laurie, and she has a podcast, The Awake Space, which is in the top 10 of the US spirituality charts. We've been topping and tailing each other for weeks now. At one point we were number 1 and number 2. And then this week, I think I've been number 6 and she's been number 7. And now she's gone back up the charts. But Laurie and I are amazing when we work together. Her ability to pull up astrology of an area or astrology of certain events, and my ability then to use my guides to dive a bit deeper for the predictive side of things. We held an event on August the 3rd, which was worldwide. It went from August right the way through to December, including elections, including events around the world. We covered the UK, Ireland, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, America, South America, and some of Africa. All of that is now available to purchase in the Patreon store. Do not purchase it using your phone. If you can, use a tablet or a laptop. It is cheaper. You don't have to pay the Apple fees. Just take my word for it. I think it's about 30% more if you do it on your phone. That's in the shop. We are currently dealing with Patreon because they're about to put their prices up come November because of Apple Pay, or it's a link to Apple. We are working on it. It doesn't affect those that are current members or if you are a member before November, but it will affect new memberships from November. So I am personally trying to factor that into my prices. So hold on for that information. I will be changing prices so that people do not have to pay the 30%. I will swallow it. I don't think that's fair. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, if you want to go into the Patreon shop, please do so. That event with all of the predictions, earthquakes, hurricanes, stuff that I've seen coming up in October, the stuff around the Ukraine and Poland and Russia is all in that event. It was 4 hours, 4.5 hours or something like that. We have cut it down because we removed the breaks out of it that we took. So yeah, it's all there for you. Talking of Patreon, it is now time for me to give my newest members a shout out that they deserve. It is amazing that everyone supports me the way that you do. It allows me to do this, to do my other podcast, The Sassy Seers, and create more content for you. If you join, don't forget to go along and have a look at the collections. You have access to all the past information. That includes the Patreon-only podcasts. I'm about to load up sometime this week the latest Patreon-only podcast, including the Q&A. That's where you guys get to ask me those questions you want to ask. So go and have a listen to that. So we're going to give a shout out to the latest new members. Libby and Poplin, G. Harris, Lainey W., Olivia, Leah, Brianna Kalajian, Danielle, Cindy, Diana Catherine, Lacey Corey, Mux W, Jean Bean, who was joined for 12 months. Thank you, Jean. Lana Allen, Jennifer Sampson, Kathy Meader, Shane Patrick, Michelle Brady, Sus C, Angela Smith, and Lee G. You guys rock. Thank you so much. As I said, it just allows me to do what I do and gives me that freedom to be able to create a lot more content. I have alluded to it before. I have the whole of September off from readings. After doing readings back to back for the last 9 months, I am exhausted. I just need the downtime. I had initially booked September off to have spinal surgery. It looks like I'm actually going to be able to manage that conservatively now. I was being pushed to have, what's it called? I keep forgetting the name of it. Fusion surgery. And I really don't want to. I'm going to be honest with you. It frightens me. If I can delay it, fine. If I can work on what I need to work on, that's even better. I've recently had another injection into a facet joint because that apparently is where all the pain is coming from, although I do have some disc issues. The facet joint seems to be the problem, and we're hoping that works. But I even, it's going to sound really strange, but I have a very low car. I've had this car for eight years and I bought it brand new. It's barely got any kilometres on it because before I lived in the middle of nowhere where I live now, I was actually living in the inner city in Melbourne. And I rarely drove my car. If I went anywhere in the city, I got a tram or got a taxi. But I have had to replace my car because it was setting off problems with my back. So I'm about to, in about half an hour, go and pick up a brand new CX-5, and that is going to help my back. I had a CX-7 before the one that I've got now, and I never had any issues getting in and out of it. It was so much more comfortable. The only problem is I'm going to have an issue getting the buff in and out. So I'm going to have to investigate a ramp because he's not somebody that I can lift. He's nearly 40 kilos. And the new puppy is going to be even heavier because I think he's 20 weeks and he's sitting at 22 kilos. I think if I ever get a dog again, it's going to be one that fits in the handbag. But so I'm hoping a mix of the new car, the PT I'm doing twice a week, plus the hydrotherapy is all going to work. So yes. So thank you, everyone that has reached out, everyone that checks on me when I'm on a live. I really appreciate it. And talking about my lives, don't forget that if you join Patreon, even as a free member, you get access to my lives. And they're all put up there, usually within a couple of days of me actually going live. So we've talked about intuition and how you can use it Do you know that many people that work in certain industries use their intuition a lot more than you would know? People that work in things like investigation, including the police force, salespeople, including real estate, people that work with other people use their intuition a lot more. So think about it. If you work in any of the industries where you're person facing and you have to deal with people on a regular basis, or you may be working in sales, think about how often you use your gut and your intuition. Just because you don't realize it doesn't mean to say you don't use it. And I think it's really valuable to understand how that can be used in everyday jobs. I'm hoping to do some more in-depth work on that for people. So let me know if that's something that you are interested in. But using your intuition in the workforce is something that is incredibly underrated. Listen, I spent years working in government. I worked as a communications advisor. I have a doctorate of behavioural economics that I have used in my job for years. But my intuition and my ability to use my guides got me where I was and got a lot of projects done without having to deal with the blockages, because I always knew what the blockages would be and was able to explain something or argue with them before they came to me with their arguments. It's a good tool to use. The more you practice it, the more you will have knowledge of other people's movements and be able to use your ability in your work. So we're going to talk about evidential mediumship before I go on to talk about what I have been shown for the coming months. Many of you would know that I came onto social media because I was really unhappy with the lack of real spirituality on social media. Now, I am not just talking about the fact that there's a lot of numbnuts out there behaving badly, in the comments, being rude, that sort of thing. I am talking about the people that pertain to be evidential mediums, or put the name medium before their name. When you have a mediumship reading, it's really important to understand that and I see it in my comments a lot where people will say, I want to talk to my husband, I want to talk to my nana, is my nana around me, can you tell me? The answer to that is always yes. Your nana, your husband, whoever they are around you all the time. And if you've listened to my previous episodes where I've talked about the continuation of consciousness, where we are currently living our human existence, but when our human body fails us, when it dies, our consciousness continues, our soul, our spirit, that just continues. So although those in the afterlife know that they are dead, physically, they are always around you. So it's very easy for a medium or someone claiming to be a medium to just go, yes, they're around you. And that will give you some form of comfort. But evidence that they are around you is really important. And when I do a personal reading, or in fact one of my group events, which I had this weekend, I'll talk about that in a minute, I work really hard with spirit and ask them to give me information that confirms that they are around you. It does come in the way of names, initials. They also like to acknowledge those that are still living. So they want, you may get somebody that steps forward and I will be able to tell you they worked on the railways, or they've got a connection to the railways in some way, or they wore a uniform, or they may say that they worked as a carpenter, all of that sort of stuff I can pick up and give you that information, and their initial, their name or similar, and then they will want to say who's an A, for instance, and it could be your sister Anna that they're wanting to acknowledge, that's part of the family. They will try and acknowledge people that are living and quirks about them, but it's also information around you on this current time, what's gone on in your life since they have passed that I couldn't possibly know about. During a group reading, so I hold large mediumship groups about once every 2 months, and there's usually a large amount of people in these groups. And it's spirit-led. There's the opportunity for a reading. Not everyone gets a reading, obviously, because it's, there's so many people in the group, but spirit will lead me to where they want to go. There is also the vicarious readings where you will be watching me work mediumship, and I will bring through information that may be relevant to you or your family. And then by the time we sort of drill down a little bit, we realize it's not your family, it's somebody else's that's in the group. But that message, that name that's used, that information is a nod that your loved ones are around, because it's not possible to read for 100 people, and sometimes there's 200 people in those groups. So it is basically an opportunity for a reading. It's not a guarantee. But on the weekend, I did a reading for an absolutely lovely lady, and I was bringing through information about her brother-in-law, and I said that I saw her husband and her brother-in-law in a uniform. It was a sporting uniform, and it was yellow and blue. I think that's the colour, I can't remember. And I also gave her the number 28, and she couldn't take either of that information, but she said she'd write it down and speak to her husband. Actually, during that reading also, I described a stuffed animal that he had bought for his nephew, which she actually was able to pull out and show. But at the end of the reading, I asked, is there any questions? Does anyone have any information they want to share? And she came forward, and she had a photograph that had been hanging on the wall in the house, and it was her husband and his brother in sporting uniforms, and on the back of one of the tops was the number 28. And that is what evidential mediumship is about. So remember, when you're having a reading that is mediumship, don't just take someone's word for it. I understand that, getting people that are going live, and you have no point of reference with these people. They are just saying, yes, they're around, and they're not giving you any description, any information. And yes, I understand that brings you some comfort, and you can have comfort knowing that your loved one is around you every single day. And I am just the medium. You can have conversations with your loved ones as much and as often as you want. I just give you the evidence. And it's as simple as that, but it must be evidence. I can't stress this enough. I wish there was a certification or a board or something that people would only use people with this certain certification. But unfortunately, it's not. And I do worry about people being taken advantage of. And on another note, when it comes to being taken advantage of, please understand that I currently have no readings available at all. There is nothing available until the end of this year, 2020 and 2025. Nothing will be released until November. I am too full. I do not want people waiting as long as they are waiting currently. So I'm going to go back to releasing no more than 2 months in advance for my readings. And it has meant that those fake accounts are taking advantage of people. If you get a message from someone pretending to be me, it's not me. It's not me. I don't follow people on social media for a reason. It keeps you safe. I follow my friends, I follow mutuals, and a couple of creators that I find influential. and enjoy their content. But I do not follow people. It's nothing personal. It keeps you safe. It means that if you get a follow from a medium Matilda, you can go, Matilda said she doesn't follow people. I'm going to block this person and report them. Unfortunately, I don't get to see them because they block me before they set up the accounts. Although it was quite hilarious that somebody came into my comments the other day pretending to be me and approaching people. And I'm like, what the fudge? Why would you do that? It's a quick way to get yourself banned from my account. Anyone taking my image or taking my videos are currently being reported, and we're hoping to take all of those down. So keep yourself safe. Realize that any reasonable medium is not going to approach you on social media and say, "Oi, do you want a reading?" Or "I am drawn to you," or grand freaking rising. No, do not do that. So let's talk about the current energy and what I've seen. You will, if you follow me and have been following my predictions, notice that a lot of predictions that I predicted last year, especially around the start of last year, are starting to come into play now. This includes, the current administration, Trump's decline. Trump's decline is going to continue. I still see him having a health event. Not sure if it's going to be public. Some of his meltdowns, please understand, they are probably public health events that we are not knowing that they are health events. His team are desperately trying to stop him doing these ad hoc rants in front of the golf club or Mar-a-Lago. He's just digging himself a deeper hole. There is a very strong possibility that sentencing may be delayed by 24 hours. I don't know why. I've just been told 24 hours. And the fact that his health is declining so drastically between now and sentencing that I feel that the judge is going to come down incredibly harsh on him. That could be your public meltdown or public event if he makes it to September. I feel like it's any day now with Trump. But these public rants that he goes on and what comes out of his mouth are pushing the Republican Party further and further away from him. They do not want a part of him. They do not want a part of JD Vance, or Shady Vance, as I have now decided to call him. There is going to be a public fight, not physical, between the two of them coming up in the next week or so. There is going to be more Republicans being repulsed by him. And when I'm talking about Republicans, I'm talking about high-ranking Republicans that have until now held their tongue. Expect Taylor Swift to swiftly put an end to him using her image, and expect Taylor Swift to come out publicly for Kamala and Waltz in the next, I want to say 3. So I'm going to say 3 weeks. What are we on? We're on the 20th of August today. So I want to say 3 weeks. You're going to see Taylor coming out for them. It may be a bit soon now, given what's recently happened, but I feel it's in about 3 weeks. The trumpets, the MAGA crowd. A lot of people have asked me if I see mass civil unrest. No, I don't. I think there'll be a little bit, but I don't think there will be. I think that those that are left are dumber than dog shit and can't be bothered. They don't even know why they're voting for him. There is a void within their lives that pushes them to believe that he is the second coming, and it will gradually peter out. There may be a few issues in January, but I don't see it. November, could be some protests. but I feel like it's more the left protesting. To be fair, I don't think it's the Republicans. So it'll be interesting, to say the least. Whatever happens, I do not see Donald Trump ever being president of anything again. I still think he's going to be physically and mentally challenged this year. Don't worry about civil unrest. I don't see it happening. I'm more concerned about the left than I am the right. Those that are left around the MAGA lot are just dumb and really don't know what they're doing anyway. So don't worry about that. The DNC, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be quite tumultuous on the external. The internal, I feel like the vibe is really high. I haven't seen any of it yet. I'm not sure we'll see Biden more than once, maybe twice. I don't think he's a very well bunny at the moment, and he feels like he's on the decline. I don't think he's going to suddenly die, but I feel like he's on the decline in the coming weeks, and we're going to see that more and more, or understand it when we see him less and less. As far as the rest of the world goes, a lot of ups and downs. It's that full moon energy where we'll see a lot of rumblings with the earth tremors, a lot of difficult weather, and a lot of bad behaviour. Australia is likely to see a violent attack of some sort in the news by the end of this week. I feel like it could be more domestic violence than terrorist, but I also feel like we are on the verge of a terrorist attack of some sort. And I'm not talking about some mass organised thing. I'm talking about some lone ranger trying to do something that they shouldn't do. So if you are in public, and I've made this statement before, if you're in public spaces, just be very, very careful. Mpox, I think we're going to get it. Like, it's going to spread worldwide. I am not being shown any shutdowns. It's certainly not going to be like 2020, because we've learned our lesson because of that. But what I do want to say is, you guys start taking control of your own lives. Be careful if you're in crowded environments. Just because COVID is everywhere and everyone's not wiping down, etc., start doing that again. Start putting your COVID protocol into place again now, and it will protect you and your family. Don't hang out with massive groups of people if you can possibly avoid it. If you don't need to be in a hospital, don't be in a hospital is my answer, because I feel like there's going to be issues regarding disease and contagious diseases spreading through US hospitals. And I think it's going to be restricted to the US. For now, that's what I'm being shown. So if you don't need to be in a hospital, don't. As simple as that. If you can be treated at home, or you don't need to go to the emergency room, don't. If you are there, be extra vigilant. All right. There is some good news coming in the next couple of weeks. I feel like we will see more and more people working together as a community. I told you it was going to happen, and I told you that a woman would be the one to be the undoing of Trump. I said this last year, and I said that community groups would come together, and look what's happening. Look what's happening in both the US and the UK, where those coming out against the violent offenders that have been in the UK have made a difference. Community is the way forward. Now is the time to start getting to know your neighbours, because 2025 and the weather that's unfolding and the conflicts that are beginning to grow you are going to want to know who your neighbours are. So get out there and start being part of a community, as that is incredibly important. Well, my lovelies, that is it from me this week. I hope you have found the intuition and the evidential mediumship part of things interesting. If anyone is interested this weekend, it is Sunday morning, my time, which is Saturday night in the rest of the world, unless you're in New Zealand. I have a seminar for 45 minutes on the law of attraction. If you cannot attend and you have booked your space, you will be sent the video recording, the workbook, and some meditations out the next day. So on Monday, you'll be sent that out. But if you want to take part in the law of attraction, it is 40 Australian dollars, which I think is about 22 US dollars, to take part and sign up. In the event, I talk about what the blockages are and how people aren't able to manifest and how they're stopping things coming in, how they become attached to certain things and certain stories, and that is stopping them bringing in what they deserve. So if you want to sign up for that and you like the way that I deliver things, which is pretty blunt, I look forward to seeing you there. There's still a few spots available. Until next week, though, lots of love. I will see you next week. If not, I will see you on live.